Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey, welcome to Business Coaching Secrets. Get your my boy, Road Dog with me. Road Dog, in the house there, bud?
Betcha. Loud and clear, bud. Ready to roll.
You bet, man. Well, look, we got some, as per always, we got a bunch of questions coming through. We got lots of coaches on the line listening live, and we just appreciate some of their feedback that they just given us a second ago, but we're about to start this sucker live. So I'll tell you what, man, over to you, and hit me with the questions you got there, bud.
All right. It'll hit me with your best shot. All of a sudden, I got that in my head all day. That's great. All right. So we've always talked about many different ways, obviously, to go and get clients, and it's been said many a time that the holy grail is joint ventures. So this question alludes to that. So what is the best way to approach a JV?
Best way to approach a JV. Well, I'll tell you, let me start with this. Here's how not to approach a JV. Okay, you're going to go to let's just use the metaphorical, the accountant is where people's minds tend to go. Okay, so we'll just go there because, accountants are great joint venture partners. Problem is they're highly analytical on average. They're not the types of folks that are going to take risks. They're not the types of folks that are going to do something new. So there's a saying, the easiest person to sell is a salesperson. Well, if that's true, and I believe it to be absolutely true, the hardest person on the planet is to sell as an accountant because they're the exact opposite. That being said, here's what we do. On average, business coaches go to an accountant and they go, I got this amazing idea. Here's what we're going to do. I charge $2,000 a month for my business coaching. Okay, you're currently not providing those services to your clients. So here's what you're going to do. You promote me to all of your clients. And then when I sell them coaching and they pay me for coaching, I'm going to pay you a percentage of what they pay me. This is amazing. And by the way, if they don't pay me, I won't pay you. And for as long as they pay me, that's how long I'm going to pay you for. Are you ready? This is amazing, right? Like, it's just horse trading. It's just like what you do, you say, okay, well, you're going to get 20% of the coaching fee. So I charge $2,000 a month. So what's that? I got horrible math, but I'm pretty sure that's $400 a month. So for each coaching client that you send me, the day they pay me $2,000, I'm going to send you $400. And as they continue to pay me the $2,000, I pay you the $400, right? The accountant, and by the way, he won't tell you to F off. He won't hang up the phone. He won't get shirty with you. He'll say, wow, yeah, you know what? That sounds like a great idea. And then you never get him back on the phone and you wonder why. Okay. That's why, because that sucks. That's like it's almost an insult to someone's intelligence to provide them like that, to call them, if you think about it. And that's a slight exaggeration. And by the way, I have got that exact deal done, right, with many accountants. But that's not the way I do it. You ask, how would I do it now? You got to enter the conversation going on inside the head of the prospect, okay? What is their hot button? I don't need to meet the accountant that you're about to speak with to know that here is his or her challenge. An accountant's life, 3 months of the year, they are so busy that they can't keep up. It's just insane. Because what we do is 90 days, or like at the end of the year, right? We put together our books, we send them through to the accountant, okay? And then he's got X amount of time, or she's got X amount of time, let's say 90 days to get, our tax returns back to us and whatnot, and tell us exactly how much we need to send to the government, right? Well, because everybody does it as a mad rush, a couple months after the year is over, right? And by the way, little star here, you don't want to do this after the year is over because now the numbers are in and you don't give the accountant any flexibility to be able to help you with getting crafty or creative to move some numbers around because once the numbers are in, the numbers are in. You should be seeing the accountant during the year. But anywho, so that's the challenge. And they're so frigging busy for 3 months. And if you guys know an accountant, you know this to be true. They're so busy, they can't get home to have dinner with their family, to have lunch with the kids. Like, there's none of that happening. So therefore, speak to the accountant and say, here, take me for a test drive. You wouldn't buy my $50,000 BMW if I had one for sale if I didn't let you take it for a test drive. Okay, really powerful business lesson is that take people, even when you're trying to close a coaching client, sometimes go to take me for a test drive. Let me show you that I'm the real deal. Let's measure this relationship in results with your bank account, and let's hire me as your coach for 90 days. And then at 90 days, let's see how I'm doing, right? But anyway, so back to the accountant. Conversation in their head is they are so frigging busy for those 3 months of the year that it drives them crazy. It literally ages an accountant, right? Therefore, Mr. Accountant, take me for a test drive. Send me 3 clients. Don't send me 30. Don't send me 300. Don't promote my webinar or my seminar for like every person in your database. Send me 3 clients, not your best, not your worst, but somebody who's realistically and needing these services. Here's my commitment to you, Mr. Accountant. These 3 clients that you send me, they will not come and see you 3 months after the year is over. They will come to see you during the year. Not only will they come to see you during the year, but they'll come at least twice. And if I have to pick them up and drive them, that's what I will do. It's my 100% commitment. So this way, and by the way, there's a good chance that they'll come in 4 times a year. In a perfect world, they're probably going to come in about 10 times because we both know that's the relationship they should have with their accountant. So you will know that the 3 people you send me are not going to be part of that incredible logjam at the end of the year. And here's the better news. When somebody comes to see you, Mr. Accountant, twice during the year, 4 times during the year, potentially 10 times during the year, your fees are going to 2x, 4x, possibly in some cases 10x, maybe not quite there, but your fees are going to go up dramatically with those 3 clients. So instead of charging them, say, $2,500 for the year, these are going to be $5,000 to $10,000 clients for you. What do you think? Do you want to take me for a test drive? The accountant is going to say, yes, please. And then, by the way, when you do that, when you got to follow through here, remember, you don't do what the coaching relationship, you know what I mean? Don't do what's required. Don't do what the paperwork outlines and what you said that you would do when you closed them as a coaching client. You do whatever it takes to follow through on that relationship, right? So in other words, pick up the coaching client and drive them to the accountant's office if that's what it takes. But the magic is, what do you think he's going to do when you take on 3 clients and within 90 days, they've all come to see him in his office and those 3 have never come into his office to see him or her to do the books? He's going to say, holy smokes, this is amazing. Look, I've got another 10 that I think would be perfect. And now, by the way, you keep your money and the accountant keeps his or her money, right? That's the magic. There's no need to do this 20%, blah, 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 blah. In fact, the accountants normally get a little bit thrown off by that. For a variety of different reasons that are, not necessary to go through here today, but that's about it. But that's how you do it. But it's the conversation going on inside the head of the prospect. In this instance, it's a joint venture partner, the accountant. So that's what I do. And by the way, so now if I was going to do it with somebody who sells advertising, so let's say the local newspaper, the magazine, the guy who sells online like advertising to his online directory. Well, the conversation in his or her head is that they want to sell more advertising. So I go to them and say, well, look, you know how, no doubt, here's what happens. People buy your ad, they spend $1,000, they run it for 3 months, and then they decide that it's not working, cancel, and you can never get them on the phone again. Yes or no? Yes. Here's what I'm going to do. Whatever I want you to take me for a test drive, send me 3 coaching clients, okay? I'm going to charge them $2,000 a month, right? And whatever your prices are. I'm going to charge them $2,000 a month. And whatever they are spending on advertising, because I personally believe, and by the way, I do believe this, guys, if you know anything about me, you'll know this is true, advertising to profit is a superpower. Okay, it's literally like you are Superman going into the phone booth, and when you come out of the phone booth and you can take advertising and turn it into money, you become Superman. This is literally a superpower. So nobody believes in advertising more than I. So basically, you guys should, here's the relationship, Mr. Newspaper salesperson, newspaper advertising medium person, and me. So take me for a test drive. Whatever they are spending on advertising, so let's say they're spending, $2,000 currently. I will multiply. I will double their advertising budget with you, but I'll need 6 months to get there. But I will be educating them, and I will be encouraging them, and I will be explaining to them that advertising is a superpower. And it's not about running an ad and then deciding, oh, it doesn't work and never running it again. It's no, you you haven't managed to get the right headline and the right offer to speak specifically to your prospects. And then, by the way, when they actually call off of the ad, the question is, what's the script? Who's answering the phone? How influential are you? What's the offer that you're putting in front of them, etc. Like making those dots connect for the ad. But believe me, the guy who's selling advertising is going to say, yes, please. And by the way, you say, take me for a test drive. Maybe I'm full of poo-poo. Maybe I'm going to not only double these ads, maybe I'm going to triple, quadruple, treble them, right? Let's go. Take me for a test drive. So that's the way I do it. And then anybody else, if it's a networking organization, right? If you know anybody who owns a networking organization, I've got some experience in this niche. They don't, but if they don't have a $5,000 coaching or a $5,000 sponsorship, we'll call it, or a platinum program or a titanium program, whatever, because most networking organizations charge about $500 to $1,000 for a 12-month, for a 12-month relation, whatever you want to call it, membership to the networking. Well, some people want to spend more. Okay, this is proven time and time again. And just look at, Louis Vuitton, handbags, etc. Right? So they need a $5,000 program. They don't have one, so you help them frame it up. And then when they send you these clients, you are going to encourage them to get into their platinum, gold, silver, titanium. Like they should have some higher level memberships that come with higher level privileges for the networking organization. Because see, nobody joins a networking organization. They're trying to grow their business. So when I go to the networking organization, what's the conversation in their head? And then I would target that, right? So I'm going to help you make significantly more. Your members are currently spending $1,000. The people that you send me, the 3 coaching clients, I'll make sure they go on to your $2,000 program at a minimum. Boom. You guys tell me. I don't know. Would you go for it if you were the advertising salesperson, the accountant to the person that owned the networking organization? I'd like to think so. And do it that way. So I guess so how do I approach a JV? And again, don't go at it as a horse trade like, hey, send me clients and I'll give you 20%. That's not the conversation in their head. And if anything, it throws them off a little bit. And it's such a without you realizing it, it's such a lightweight offer, right? Like, because it's just like, yeah, okay, I do something for you and then you'll do something in return for me. Hey, thanks. No, you go in there talking about the benefit that you're going to drive to them. So, man, that's how I approach a joint venture. I approach it the same way that I do a sales call or a closing of a coaching client, and that's the way I do it.
Awesome. That's awesome. It's funny too, because you talked about marketing and advertising, and obviously it is a superpower. As soon as you know, it's just a matter of scaling at that point. But kind of leads into the next question that I have, and it's again, we hear a lot of, especially from a lot of clients, right? Oh, I want to grow my business by word of mouth and referrals. And now you've publicly many times have said that word of mouth referrals is a disgrace. And obviously by throwing, that's a pretty bold statement. So can you explain that for the people that probably just don't understand what you mean by that?
Yeah, okay. To be clear, the statement is that when you meet somebody, how many times have you met somebody and they tell you, and by the way, chest out, pumping their chests, like again, this is some kind of a amazing thing. They built their business on word of mouth and referrals. And again, like they're basically bragging to you that they don't market, they don't advertise, and they think this is some kind of a good idea, right? It's ridiculous. Dead set. Provided, look, okay, unless of course you're somebody who wants to make $100,000 a year, that's all you want to make. You don't want to grow. You got 3 young kids. You want to watch them grow up, and this is the way it is. Then fine. Then just grow word of mouth and referrals. But understand that's not how you grow a business, right? So let's say I get some buddies and whatnot. Like we're 7-figure and 8-figure businesses that we own. Like when someone in the room says something about, oh yeah, they grow their business on word of mouth and referrals only. Literally, 8-figure business owners just kind of laugh, like we kind of snickle. You know what I mean? Like, oh, right? I don't mean that to be. I don't want that to sound like, oh, like we're some kind of, we're better, this, that, and the other. But it's just that's not how you grow a business. End of story. You grow a business through marketing and advertising. End of story. And you just used a word a second ago, road dog, scale. If you want to scale, it's impossible to do through word of mouth and referrals. And then if you're like, but yeah, it seems like such a good, this is common sense, right? That you want to grow your business through word of mouth and referrals. Of course you do. But if you got, like, instead of getting one client every month or one client every 2 months, if you were getting 10 clients every week, imagine how many extra word of mouth and referrals that you would get, right? So you're just, if you think about it, growing your business from word of mouth referrals is like putting a handbrake on it, because those things are going to come anyways. I mean, they're an expectation. If you're doing a good job, if you're not getting word of mouth or referrals, you got a huge problem, right? So you're just not fulfilling at a level that's attracting them. So the bottom line is, you have to learn how to market. You have to learn how to advertise if you want to build, I'm going to call it, a real business. And there's a framework. The average company should be taking about 10% of gross revenues, and that should be going, like, that should be a starting point for marketing and advertising. And by the way, in some cases that would go significantly up. Other businesses, by the way, have really, really fine margins, so you might want to play with that a little bit. But as a baseline, 10% of if a company does $1 million a year, $100,000 should be their marketing and advertising budget as a, again, to say as a minimum, because once again, there's some variables there, but that's a framework that I would start with. And that's not enough. For most companies, $1 million, $100,000 is not enough, by the way. Because again, but it depends on the individual and the way that they're growing. So when I say that, and I say that it's a disgrace, it's somebody who's like, yeah, man, I'm going to conquer the world. I'm going to take over. I'm building this 8-figure business. I'm on my way. Again, and then they say they grow through word of mouth and referrals, and that's why they're so amazing. That's just not the way to do it. That being said, there's also, once again, there's variables with everything. But like, if Bill Gates was on the phone and Hotmail, right, he wouldn't exactly agree with this, because if you know anything about Hotmail, the way that it grew is at the bottom of every email they put, hey, want a Hotmail address? Click here. It worked very, very well. But once again, guys, these are anomalies on steroids, and I believe whenever bringing business principles, you want to be very, very careful to use an anomaly. In fact, you just don't want to use an anomaly. You always have to use percentages. So the business owner, the personal trainer, the landscaper, the builder, the dentist, the chiropractor, building through word of mouth and referrals is just not to do it. You've got to find a way to take marketing and advertising and turning it into profit. And I said it when we were doing the last question. It's literally a superpower, and it's something that their clients should absolutely be concentrating on, and you should be helping them with this line of thought. Once again, this is a paradigm shift for a lot of your clients, because, like I said, they think that word of mouth and referrals is the way to go, and this is some kind of a trophy, right? This is something where education has to come into it. And don't think that you're going to say this to them once, as I don't expect to say this to you once, and for it to, the penny to drop and you just adopt this line of thinking, because believe me, this is going against, 100 years of what, people think is, just the right way to do it, and just that paradigm. There's a level of common sense to say, oh yeah, of course, you build a really good business through word of mouth and referrals. No, you build a really solid, scalable business through marketing and advertising, and the story, and the word of mouth and referrals is like, the froth on the top of your cappuccino. Without the coffee, you've got a baby chino, right? So that's what I'd say to that, my man.
Did you say baby chino?
Yeah, my daughter.
Oh my God. That's beautiful.
Yeah, you just put vanilla. That's what my daughter has them all the time, right? So you just take that froth milk, and then you put a little bit of vanilla on it. You call it a baby chino. She loves it. And, my wife has a cappuccino. She has a baby chino, and they have a great time.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. Hey, I'm pretty passionate about this whole word of mouth thing too, because I hear it a lot, and it kind of makes me laugh, because my initial two reactions are, obviously, absolutely nothing about marketing. And the second aspect is like, why would you ever leave the growth and the scaling of your business in somebody else's hands?
Thank you. I should have said that. Totally. That's really what somebody is doing with word of mouth and referrals. They're driving a bus, and they're taking their hand off the wheels and hoping that the road is going to guide them. No, thank you.
Yeah. It's that whole hopium, right? You're living your life on hopium. That's all it is. It's pretty brutal. But now, speaking of other things that we hear a lot of, probably one of the most common questions to any coach out there. So let's just go ahead and ask it once again, Karl. How much should I charge for my coaching?
Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. Look, $1,000 to $2,000 is a good framework. If you're just starting out, again, maybe a different. Actually, here's a better question. what's the model that I should use for my business coaching fees, right? That would be a significantly better approach to this. So first of all, if you're just starting out, like I get asked all the time, should I coach for free? And let me ask you a question. Did Tom Brady throw the football for free for a while before he got paid? And the answer is abso-frigging-lutely, right? Like the problem of, like the truth of it is, here's just the industry, once again, like on the inside, this is what we talk about. Everybody wants to know about lead generation, lead generation, lead generation. You just look at the Road Dog, the questions that we get, which you'd agree 80% of them are, how do I get clients? Would you agree with that?
Well, at least as a minimum.
At a minimum. The real problem is that you suck at coaching. And I'm not saying it depends on how much experience you got, but really, can you get these clients results? In fact, I sent out an email very recently, and it basically, like at the top of it, it said, my client stayed with me for 3 months and then they quit because they just wanted me to do it all for them. Okay. Coaches get this all the time. And if that's what you're getting, that means you don't know how to coach. That's your job. That's a person that's like the word of mouth and referrals answer, right? Like it's just an uneducated person has thrown this at you. They don't want you to do it all. Unless they want to pay you, and then you're going to continue to raise your fees and whatnot. Like a real business owner wants to learn. A real business owner needs to learn. But remember, you sell them what they want, and then you have to deliver what they need. Okay, so what I'm getting at is, should you coach for free? And the answer is abso-friggin-lutely. If you don't already have a ton of runs on the board and awards behind your name, and you know what I mean, like, and you really honestly can't look yourself in the mirror and say, I can provide results at the drop of a hat with any coaching client you put in front of me. So that being said, though, but should you always coach for free? Well, no, it's difficult to take somebody from free to paid. But at the end of the day, guess what? That also is a little bit of an art form and something that I would encourage you to be learning. So first of all, and that's not the question. So the question is, how much should you be charging? So it's like $1,000 to $2,000 a month. I've got coaches that work with us. They charge $5,000 a month. It's $60,000 a year, and they get it. I know a lot of inexperienced coaches are sitting there going, who the hell is going to pay $60,000 a year for coaching? And by the way, remember, when I say coaching, also very important that I believe in a coaching consulting hybrid, right? So the traditional, that old school, you do traditional coaching, and they say, your client already knows what they need to know. You just need to draw it out of them, right? Well, I got a much better saying, you motivate an idiot, they do stupid things quicker, right? That's not to be harsh and crass, but believe me, your coaching client doesn't know what they need to know, or they would have been doing it. And even though they know that they need to write down goals, they are not doing it. Even though they know 80-20 principles, they are not doing it. So therefore, they don't know it. I'm sorry. Okay. End of story. Conversation over. And that might be you as well. So back to the question, $1,000 to $2,000 a month is a framework. You get really good, you get up to $5,000 a month. But here is the X factor. Okay. Introduce me I want you to think of your guru, quote unquote, right? Let's go Dan Kennedy, Tony Robbins, Frank Kern. I mean, just name whoever you want to name, but your guru, right? Amy Porterfield, okay? They make all, ALL, I want you to capitalize it, bold it, italicize it, underline it, all of their money in their high-end programs, okay? An example, Tony Robbins runs his low-end program, so an entry-level program for Tony Robbins is called UPW, Unleash the Power Within. It's 4 days in a live event. He runs it a few times a year, and basically you and 5,000 people jump up and down for 4 days and learn a tremendous amount and get introduced to Tony Robbins, okay? Well, on day 2, he brings you up to 3, basically pitches, and who does the pitching? Tony Robbins does the pitching, okay, the whole I don't want to be a salesperson, blah, 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 out the window. Once again, just ridiculous line of thinking. Tony Robbins does the close, and he sells you on day 2 into a $10,000 coaching university, right? And by the way, UPW is about I don't know how much it is right now, but it's like $1,000 roughly, okay? All the gurus that I just mentioned, Frank Kern, Tony Robbins, Dan Kennedy, Amy Porterfield, etc., they all have $1,000 program, right? That's entry level into their world. So now on day 2, he sells you into a $10,000 program. On the night of day 2, he's got a very clever way. I mean, again, Tony's a little bit experienced if you didn't know. what he does is he has a way to work out of the 5,000 people in the room who's got real money. And then he'll pull you into a private room, and you don't know that Tony's coming, and then magically he shows up to do the selling, once again, very convenient, okay, with his handlers all around him, yada, yada, yada. And now he pitches you on approximately a $100,000 platinum partnership, okay, which, by the way, conversions are very low, but in a room of 5,000, he manages to close a number of them. Now you're in his $100,000 platinum partnership, and then he sells you a $250,000, I don't know what it's called. We're going to call it titanium, right? Like, in other words, you keep paying, and the more you pay, and think of it as access, real powerful word. In fact, you might want to write that down. The more that you pay, the more access you get to Tony Robbins. Like at UPW, you're in the room and you're looking at him, and he's on a stage 7 feet high, right? No access. As the programs go higher and higher, you get more and more access to Tony Robbins. But the bottom line, what's important here is the pricing model that he's got. He makes everybody goes to the events. It's in Madison Square Garden. Everybody's paying $1,000. You look around and go, oh my gosh, Tony Robbins must be making millions of dollars. Well, let me tell you, UPW is practically his lost leader. By the time, when you go to a Tony Robbins event, he's got about 50 to 100 volunteers. There's a reason why he has volunteers, quite frankly, because he needs them. Because if everybody's on the payroll, he'd be losing a fortune or thereabouts. Again, it depends on the individual. Sometimes he gets 1,000. Sometimes he gets 5,000. Of course, sometimes for anybody whipping out their calculator, he makes a small profit on those events. But believe me, it will blow your mind how small the profit is. His pricing model, the business model, the pricing model, it's designed. He makes all of his money in the $10,000, $100,000, $250,000 programs. Okay. And by the way, Frank Kern, Tony Robbins, Brendan Bouchard, all the rest of them, it's the exact same. Okay. Forget them. What about you? Here's my question. You're the average business coach. You come to me and you go, hey, Karl, looking for a little bit of help, yada, yada, yada. And then you may have heard me say this before, but I'll be saying it for the next 25 years. What do I buy from you? Let's call you Dave. Dave, what do I buy from you for $25,000? What do you think the average coach says back to me? A little tongue-tied, don't have a freaking clue. It's almost like I've asked them a question that would only be for those on Mars, right? Like, it's just like they can't even. And I'm like, so in other words, as you're listening to this, if you don't have a $25,000 coaching model, which, by the way, is just $2,000 a month. That's $24,000 a year, right? So if you're looking for your $25,000 coaching program, $2,000 a month is $24,000. That'll be suffice, right? So there it is. But what do I get for the $24,000? And then what does your model look like to get to it? So what I'm trying to get at here, someone who's asking me how much should I charge for my coaching is incredibly new to, this is not an experienced coach by any stretch of the imagination. I want to make sure that you understand that, establishing that you're going to charge $500 at the beginning, $1,000 once you get going, move to $1,000, and then move that up to $3,000, $36,000 a year once you get going. That's great. But understanding that what you really need to have is you need to have a model in place. And part of that model is to understand that you're going to have, if you don't have a membership site, right? Every coach needs a membership site, or in my opinion, you're just an absolute joker. Like if you meet somebody who's broke or wants a little bit of direction, and they're not willing to pay you, and you don't have the ability to put them into a membership site or a series of online videos, like you're just, you know what I mean? You're stuck in the 80s, right? Like everybody needs that. And of course, you guys know that I build membership sites for folks. So of course that's self-serving, but I don't care. Go build your own. You need a membership site or a series of videos, or you're just not playing like in this day and age, you're stuck in the 80s, right? But anyway, so you've got that program at $100 a month. And then you've got your group coaching program at $500 a month. And all these things are great, and they're group, which is good, which is one-to-many instead of one-to-one. But you've got, I don't care how many people you put in those programs, at the end of the year, if you follow our lead and you build a proper model, you will make all of your money in the $25,000 and $50,000 coaching programs versus in your $100, $500 group coaching. You see, so that's what I want to make sure that you understand, that there's a model, and not everybody's going to buy the $25,000 quote unquote model. The same way that not everybody, Tony Robbins, some folks just stay at the $1,000 level, but they still stay connected and they still stay as a follower, etc. And things like membership sites and group coaching can continue to provide and direct value to those lower end folks who aren't willing to part with the big money. But if you think about it, at 25 grand, you just need 4 people to get to 100, and you need 8 people to get to 200 grand. If you changed your, your line of thinking and your focus, right, to here's a question: how am I going to get 8 people signed up at $25,000 over the next 6 months? There's a really good question for that's not a great primary question, to be clear. That's not a North Star, but that is a question to get you going and to get you to the point so that you can stop thinking tactically and start thinking strategically. And the reason that is because your bills are paid, you're growing, you're getting there, you're going to get clients coming and going. That's just the nature of it. But at the end of the day, that would be a good framework, right? So that's what. So $1,000 to $2,000 a month is a simple answer. I believe that there's a significantly more strategic and better question, and that's around the model that they're using. And so that's how I'd answer it, buddy.
Well, and again, you always got to have that ascension ladder, right? You always got to be moving people up into a higher paying program from one step to the next. It's interesting to me when you talk about membership sites too. Again, this is a conversation that we can have till we're both blue in the face. But I find it interesting on the path to getting those 8 clients that you say at 25K. Like, Karl, realistic, just throw a number out at me here. On the path to getting 8 clients, how many people do you think you would speak with that simply can't afford you to get those 8 clients?
Oh, 7 out of 10 starting, if not more.
Okay.
And because not only do they have to be able to afford it, but you need to be able to convince them. But let's use 7 of 10 are not going to fall into that category. So yeah, you got to do your numbers based on the fact that 3 of 10 are even going to fall into what we call your ideal client. And that's somebody that not only wants what you have, but can afford what you have.
Exactly. But again, you can, of course, mitigate that by just doing your homework, which you preach continuously. But I look at that as, okay, so 7 of 10, right? So 7 of 10 can afford you at your $2,000 a month. So what's your downsell? Like, if you don't have that online platform, where are you putting it? Why are you leaving, even if you converted just 10 clients at $200 a month on your online platform? Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, why would you leave that money just sitting on the table?
Yes. Okay. What you're describing there, this is where folks miss the boat completely. Like, you sit with somebody and you can't convince them to take on, again, let's say you're coaching at $2,000 a month. You pack up your goodies and leave, right? Like, it doesn't make, like, you need to have the downsell, and you've got to have a model to look after the 7 and not just the 3 most. So, and by the way, you'd be surprised how often the 7 become one of the 3, but it takes 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Again, guys, we know how fast a year goes by, right? So
that part to me, it always blows my mind. It's like, man, the amount of lost revenue, and we as business coaches, we preach of maximizing the amount of revenue for our clients, but why not for ourselves? I just don't understand why people just wouldn't naturally do that. So actually, real quick on another aside, because another question that I typically get from folks a lot is, again, when it comes to fees, they're not sure what to charge. And then they go, well, what about like certification or, having a degree, or like, I have very strong thoughts on this, and maybe it's just compensating for the lack of a degree that I have. But what are your thoughts on all that? Because we both know that a lot of even these certified coaches, especially certified life coaches, are just flat out broke. But what are your thoughts when it comes to all that stuff?
So, well, and we share this again. I don't have a qualification to my name, right? I'm officially qualified to do next to nothing. Okay. So here's what I think everybody needs to understand. The guy or gal that's offering to certify you, whether it be the school or the company, what have you, are business people, right? That are charging you to basically A, train you, but then B, also put letters after your name or a qualification or a certificate up on your wall. They're charging you to do it. Like, it's owned by a business. You're buying the certification from a business. So I think it's important just to understand the model and what's happening here. So make no mistake about it. This is what they're doing, right? But I think I think it comes back to the individual people, right? Or individual person and the psychology. Some people, they just need that, right? Like, they need to have it. Like, I personally, so let's say that it's going to take 12 months in order to get your certification. my personality is that I would rather for 12 months, I'll just go take on coaching clients for free, right? And then I will coach them and I will get runs on the board and I will get results and I will get experience and I will get punched in the mouth and I will have massive successes. And at the end of the year, by doing that, the experience that I'll have and the results that I'll have and the testimonials that I'll have and the referrals and the word of mouth that now starts to come and my understanding would be a million times greater than that which I would have got by going through the certification. That at the end of the day, because it's a business, they say it's going to take a year to get your certification. Well, what if I could put you in a room for 3 days and give you all of the value that you're going to get in an entire 12-month certification in 3 days? So then the question is, well, why do they make it 12 months? Because the person that they're selling it to, if you got it in 3 days, they wouldn't see the value and then they wouldn't write the $10,000 check, right? So it's like in some cases, these things get dragged out unnecessarily. But again, understand, guys, this answer is coming from my psychology. It's the way I'm wired. It's the way I'm made up. It's just the way I do things, right? So you might be different, and that certification and something on your wall might be really, really important, right? It's the same view that I have about school. In fact, that one is significantly more radical, but basically schools are educating people in areas that are literally going to become completely superseded through things like artificial intelligence that are coming thick and fast. Like, you think the internet changed the world? They say artificial intelligence is going to change it tenfold as much as what the internet did, right? So like, think about that. So, and your son is committing 4 years to go to university to learn what? My personal belief, and this comes from my father, he just said to me, like, I did go to college, right? Like, I took marketing. I was a brutal student. Well, in the words of my father, I was the smartest kid in the entire school, including more intelligent than the teachers, the principal, and the vice principal combined, because I managed to get through school without doing anything other than get 50 to 51%, right? So in other words, I knew exactly what I had to do. I knew exactly, and by the way, part of that was sucking up to the teachers, so that if I fell into the 46%, they bumped me up a few points because they thought Karl was a cool kid and on his way somewhere, I suppose. Don't know, but basically I flunked through school, and then I went to college, I took marketing, and I absolutely knocked it out of the park. Why? Because I was finally learning something that I was good at and that I liked, right? In fact, my marketing professor in college and we got along. Like, we spent a lot of time like in his office talking this, that, and the other. Actually came up with an idea. Now we're going to riff a little bit, but an idea, I called it Coupon 2000. And about, aging myself, this was back in 1992. Coupon 2000, which would have been a horrible name, of course, because little did I know that 2000 was just around the corner, but I thought it was forever away, would never get there. But anyways, and he sat down and he just told me, he goes, Karl, this idea, which, by the way, if you know what Groupon is, it was basically Groupon using local newspapers, and then it had a bit of a MasterCard Visa play. Cut a long story short, to say that he thought it was a good idea, I mean, he talked to me about investing in it, doing it together, blah, 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 blah. It never got off the ground. I never quite got it going. I did do a coupon book that sold to university students, and frankly, I made so much money, I then dropped out of college, and that was the end of that. But anywho, people like committing 4 years and going to school to learn something that I don't think's of value is probably not a good idea. So the words of my father, like back in the day, he said, Karl, the same way I grew up in a very small town, 5,000 people. And he said, Karl, I want to move you to the city. My dad and I had a very much a friend relationship, brother relationship, as much as we did father-son. He was a great mentor. It was just great. Like, he was his best friend, right? Legend. But anyway, so he said to me, Karl, I moved you to the city because I didn't want you to be small town for your entire life, right? It was important that you went to the city and kind of learned that a school with, like, I went to a school with, say, 500 people, probably not even, maybe a few hundred, but whatever it was. And then he put me in a school where there's like 1,000 people. And like, I just realized that there were more nerds, more hot girls, more ugly girls, more cool dudes, more idiots, more nerds, more smarter people, like this, more of everything, right? It was just everything. And if anything, we had something really, really special in that small town, as something else that I learned. Anywho, so he said the same thing about going to college. Karl, I want you to go to college because I never want you to feel like these guys have something up on you. And if you decide to follow through and you decide to get a degree, whatever, congratulations. I'll be the first one there to high five you and at the ceremony. But he goes, I think you should go to college, learn what you need to learn. And once you feel like you've learned what you need to learn, get the hell out of there. And discipline is something that he knew that I didn't have around learning, like reading and, comprehension, like reading a textbook or a book, and then actually being able to turn that into, like a test where I could go through without referring back to the book and be able to say, yeah, this was the name, blah, 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 blah. So kind of long story short, I believe that's, going back to the certification. If you're of the personality of you feel like everybody else is going to have a certification and you don't, and you're going to feel like less than them, and that's just the way you're made up, well, go do the damn certification, pay the money and go. But the way I do things, and if you were to talk to me one-to-one like this and just have a good, honest, heart-to-heart conversation, I'd be like, man, just go and do it, right? Like put your results at the bottom of your email, and the money in your bank account, and more importantly, the money into your client's bank account, and let that be your certification. That's the coolest certification of all time, right? Results. So that's how I answer that, man, as far as do they need a certification? But there are a lot of schools out there. Okay, and this one's also critical. This is not like if you, and again, Road Dog, you know this, right? Like I read, I would say for a solid hour a day. And that doesn't mean I open up a book and I go from start to finish. I'm on blogs, I'm reading, I'm on every list known to mankind, and I legitimately read a lot of that stuff. Like if I see something that I feel like I need to learn, I go and read it, right? So that is not in any way, shape, or form a license to not learn. Remember, the biggest problem in this industry, my opinion, is that we're all totally focused on lead generation and getting clients, and you should be hyper-focused on frigging steroids. Forget the lead generation. Become a bulletproof, like godsend to your client, right? Like learn as much as you spent all that time learning instead of farting around, thinking of different ways to generate leads. And then when it came time to generate the leads, you just damn well picked up the phone, put on your running shoes, got out there, got onto LinkedIn and started sending out messages, and got into Facebook and started sending out relevant messages, though, not spam horse crap, right? Like I'm talking add some value, connect with some people, like go to their profile, learn about them, and then the message that you send them should reflect that. Like, oh, you got 3 beautiful kids, man. I was wondering how, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into scripts and all that sort of stuff. That'll be for another day. But that's the way that's the way I'd approach it, man. And those are my views. But you've got to put your nose in the books, and you've got to not only coach the clients, you've got to learn from the clients. And again, if you constantly get that, oh, my client just quit after 90 days because they just want me to do it all themselves, you just haven't learned how to coach right. Because that response is totally unacceptable for the industry, because believe me, they don't want us just to do it all for them. Yes, there is an element of, hey, we'll go and do this and leverage it, but if they don't know what's going on, this is stupidity on steroids, and quite frankly, a business that's, not about to grow and prosper. End of story.
Awesome. It's funny. It's just the whole certification, the whole lack of degree or whatever. I obviously people feel they need to have that just to kind of add some comedic value to all of that. So obviously, with what we do, we've got our membership site and our website, right, Karl, within LPW.
Correct.
So would you believe that I don't even have my coach's site up yet after 3.5 years?
I do believe you. Yes, I do believe you.
But
again, you got Rookie of the Year, and your first event are got 100% conversion from the room, right? Like so, like this is it. You know what I mean? Like you don't need websites, you don't need flashy brochures, and all that stuff is a good idea, and you should get your act together and get all this stuff together, quote unquote. But nobody knows better than you. Like just rock and roll. Just get her done, right? There's significantly more important things than setting up a third website for yourself, right? So,
it is pretty comical to me though, because again, we do hear a lot of that. Obviously, with coaches starting up, it's just like they got to have the perfect logo, the perfect haircut for their profile pic, and all this stuff. And I'm like, I just laugh because I'm like, the only person that cares about that is you. Like that's it.
100%.
It's unfortunate. The only person that cares about your degrees is you. The only thing that the client cares for is themselves. They care about the results. And because they've had far too many qualified, certified coaches walk in their door and delivered absolutely nothing to them.
I have obviously, because I've been an entrepreneur for a long time and I've taken on a lot of staff and read a few resumes. When I read a cover letter, an email, or an introductory into the resume, and I feel like they've got an MBA, which I'd love to have an MBA. I don't have an MBA. Probably not going to get an MBA anytime. Well, not going to get an MBA anytime soon unless somebody wants to give it to me. So anybody out there that owns that MBA program and wants to gift me an MBA because I'm incredibly handsome, go for it. But not happening. But if I see the MBA too early and I feel like they're pushing that too much, which, by the way, if you know anything about MBAs, you know that this happens with ridiculous consistency. I normally just take that resume and say, thank you very much. That one will go to the right and I'll continue on to the left. Because I just know that, again, this like school, just someone who's going to be too academic and too, jump up and down and celebrate this. That's just not. But again, congratulations if you got an MBA, and that's amazing. And the level of education required in order to get to it is awesome and great for a business coach and great for these businesses. And again, if that's your shtick, go for it. And I couldn't be prouder of you. But just remember, this isn't what folks are looking for. And by the way, your prospective coaching clients most certainly are not. They will fall into my camp more than the other camp times 10, in that if you show up and you're looking to take them on as a client and you're talking about your MBA, believe me, this is not going to reflect this isn't going to do very well. In fact, if you want, I'm going to riff into another topic here. Like you could imagine there's a few doctors, like folks with PhDs in the coaching world, right? Well, if you've got a website and it says, let's just say I was Dr. Karl Bryan, which I most certainly am not, but let's assume I was. If I had Dr. Karl Bryan at the top of my website, or for that matter, in my lead generation material, just take your conversions and half them. Okay? Do you hear that? You've got a doctorate, PhD, amazing. You basically you lead with this and you will half your conversions. And obviously it's a very bad thing. Now the question is why? Here's the thing. I believe this is some of the best advice you'll ever get, guys. Here's your coaching client wants to be able to say to himself, if this idiot could pull it off and he followed a system to do so, surely if I followed that system, I could do half as good. Right? You kind of follow. That's why every public speaker, every professional public speaker will get up on stage and almost immediately cut themselves down. Right? Like you guys talk to me, you listen to my podcast, you've heard me say it, you'll hear me say it for many years, borderline true, by the way, but I failed at a grade 8 math. Right? When the guy on stage is already 3 feet above, he's got to bring himself back to ground level, not elevate himself higher. Otherwise, what happens, the psychology of the folks in the room, well, yeah, of course it works for him, but he's got the silver tongue. He's got the Rolls Royce. He's got daddy that gave him the gold credit card. He had all these runs on the board. He had that his best friend's dad was a billionaire and took him under his wing, and that's why he got to where he's at, right? That's the worst result that you can have. So once again, putting doctor in front of folks says the opposite. Goes, well, yeah, I mean, this guy could get a PhD. I could hardly get through high school. I'm never going to be able to duplicate the results of this guy, right? You see, so if you do have a doctorate, that's not to say, okay, you get a PhD and then you don't tell anybody, but let them know afterwards, right? Like don't lead with it, leave it in the background. And I would dare say that your MBA probably needs a similar kind of approach. Definitely let them know, but the time is not now. The time is not up front. The time is not early. It's once you've engaged and you're kind of, got them. Like, for instance, you've got them into the room and they're now there. And then you tear yourself down a little bit and say, well, I followed this system. And by the way, I managed to get a PhD. You're like, holy smokes, man, the guy failed grade 8 math. And then he followed this system 1, 2, 3. And now he's kicking ass and taking names and making all this money and building this kick-ass business. What are those steps? So anyways, a little bit of a framework. So there you go. That's more along the lines of certifications and MBAs and whatnot. It's all your own psychology, but nothing will replace, guys. Push it all aside, pick up the damn phone and go. That's what needs to happen. End of story. So
I think just real, I know we're going to wrap here, but what do you think of this? Do you think that a certification is almost the equivalent of just somebody just gaining a little bit more certainty and confidence? Like, because again, like you and I, we can build ourselves up and have that certainty that we know we can go in and get the job done. Like there's not a doubt in my mind when I go into a business that like I know what I'm doing there. But it's maybe this is something that gives people that certainty, right? And if it gives them that certainty, I applaud them, right? Like, good for you. If that's what is ultimately going to get you to pick up the phone to actually make that call, awesome. I just don't think that you need it.
I agree 100%. That is it. It's a certainty. And by the way, but the ironic thing is that the person's psychology is more that thinking their client feels like they need a certification. Well, let me tell you something. The plumber, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker doesn't even know that there's a coaching certification. They don't even know what to look for, right? Like, it's not good. They're going to ask, so are you certified to do this? Like, it's never. And if they do ask that, you totally screwed up your positioning prior to it. So if you're getting that, hey, so what leads you to be qualified to guide me in X, Y, Z? You made such a mess up to that point. To get them to ask that question, it's mind-boggling, right? Like, a question should never come out. But do understand, it's your psychology, not theirs. It's not like they're like, hey, so how are you qualified? Like, what's your certification, right? It just doesn't happen, won't happen. This should be the furthest thing from important in terms.
Well, and at the same time, it's a tell too, right? Like, why are you talking about you when you should be talking about the client?
Yeah.
So,
there we go.
Anyways,
yeah,
speaking of idiots, this is exactly why when I look at you, I think, well, if this idiot can do this, is why you're one of my mentors, buddy. Like, this is how it works.
I know, buddy. I know. I take great pride in that, being a total idiot and managed to pull it all off. Even my dad, when my dad said to me, he says constantly, Karl, you took chicken shit and turned it into chicken. In fact, he words it a little bit differently. I can't think. But anyways, you took chicken shit and you turned it into chicken salad. And he gives me a high five.
There you go.
Anyways,
beautiful way to end on this Monday before everyone completely cleans us out. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. I thank you again for your wisdom. I got a whole bunch of questions when it comes to live events, man. I've got just a list and a half here. We're going to dive into that next week. A little bit of a teaser there for you. I think we'll leave it at that for this episode.
You beauty. Well, thanks so much, folks. Thanks for being Business Coaching Secrets. Make sure you recommend us if we're on iTunes. Make sure you give us a review and the 5-star rating that we no doubt deserve. But appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you in the next podcast. Thanks so much, and have a great day.
Make it a great week, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at Focused.com.